Hi everybody, Fix here. This is going to be a very different video for my channel. First time I've ever really done something like this, where this entire video is going to be a time lapse. And it's because of the size of the build. It's something I've been working on a little bit. If you've been checking out my live streams, then you know basically what I've been working on. So we're here in the end. And this end build has a lot of lore, there's a lot of history. And if you're a fan of the lore bit, well, in this video, I'm putting the lore bit at the end, and it explains, the last 2 minutes of this video are going to explain what this entire island is, where it came from, all that kind of stuff. It's going to start a little mini story for a couple episodes that's going to tell the story of the Elf King and the spell he cast and how this floating island came to be in the end. So there's a whole bunch of history and stuff, and that's coming at the very end. But I thought I would just get in here early and explain a little bit of how to build a floating island, because I've done a couple of these now and I've kind of learned some things, and I thought I would just pass that along. For one thing, don't even start until you have a lot of stone. It is a mind-numbing amount of stone. I can't even guess how many shulkers, probably like 50 shulkers of stone, somewhere in that area. Now luckily in the Realm of Vasten we have, boy do we have a lot of stone. We have a lot from all the big digs we've done over the time, so there's no real big lack of stone there, but you know, have a lot of it. The second thing is go to the very bottom point, probably in the middle if you're into a kind of standard island shaping, and go up like I did in that one little area where you try to go as randomly as you can. So you come up one, out a couple, up one, out one, up three, out one, that kind of thing, and just keep going. You can even dip down, but I find that's easier to do later. And I'm going to show that in a future video when we get to detailing the whole thing. So right now, we're just doing this bit. Now, as you can see, I've laid out the basically circumference of the entire island as much of a random little line as I can. And now I'm going to do 4 to 5 little jagged edges. And basically, I'm just starting out on the XZ axis. Going up again, trying to basically get as random of a shape as I can. Like, you know, you could go make it a little bit pointier by doing a lot more up before you go out in the beginning, and then do a lot more out before you go up in the end. Yeah, as it gets closer to the border, but that's all pretty easy to work out. I have one more little line over to do, but I think I did actually make this one a little bit thicker now because I wanted to get a feel for how this was going to be. Then, after I get 4 of those done, then I start doing the diagonal. So you're going to do a total of 8 of these. The diagonal ones, I assure you, are the hardest ones to do, no question, because it's a lot of, like, quote-unquote wasted stone. It's stone that will never be seen. By the way, I'm wearing an elytra. If you haven't been watching the live streams, after I almost fell several times, I decided to use an elytra just for the beginning of this project, which is really going to help out. The other thing is, if you're doing this in a survival world, which I would imagine you probably are, then you're going to want to torch up everything. Now, I'm doing this in the end, so the only thing I have to deal with is Enderman. They're not that bad. They're just a little bit annoying. You can usually, as long as you're fairly convinced that they'll fall, you can one-hit them just with your hand or whatever, and they'll just fall into the void, and you never have to worry about them. But if you're doing this like I did in Celea, where there's creepers, and worse than creepers are skeletons that will shoot you when you're at the edge of a block and knock you off, yeah, use a lot of torches. Lots and lots and lots and lots of torches. Now, there's a detailing factor that I decided not to do. I decided not to detail it now and decided to detail it later. If you're doing this in the overworld, honestly, you don't have to detail it. When talking detail, I'm talking about adding in some cobblestone, adding some andesite, kind of randomly placed maybe little patches of granite or whatever. However, in the end, the way the end light map works, it's very different. You can see clearly underneath the island. In the overworld, it would all be shadow. It'd be really, really dark. You don't have to worry about it. But in the end, I think I'm probably gonna have to yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to detail it for sure. I don't know how exactly we're gonna do it, but there's gonna be some of that coming. Then you can see, after we get basically, I don't know, between 6 to 8 to 10 blocks wide on the X and Z axis, then you just start connecting it. You just start connecting it as randomly as you can. And it's really difficult. Being random can be difficult because you can, you know, human nature is to do patterns, right? So you can easily fall into doing some really, really set patterns, as I did right there. You can see it right there. There's like kind of a sharp corner, and that just means I followed the same pattern for too long. So sometimes you need to go out 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Sometimes you need to not go out any and just go straight up. And sometimes you need to bend it back in. I believe this one I ended up having to back because I went out too far. So on this one, I actually see I brought it back in at the very top, which is going to be great for the design. And actually right there, you can see there is a little sharp cliff. Total amount of time for this time lapse, I'm gonna guess it was probably about 20 hours. I didn't record every single clip. Sometimes I just got on. I knew I was only gonna be on just for a little bit, so I would just not record that one. But here you can see here's another technique I used where I subdivided each of the little ones, and I wish I had done that more because it made for a lot more random shapes, and that's what you're really going for in this, is to really avoid either squares or circles. You want to go as random shapes as you possibly can, and you can see just the general size of this island. It's very, very large. Now, the lore is that this island was ripped out of the overworld from the city of, well, it's White Sands now. It used to be called Talatol in our lore. And we built a crater there back in Season 2. There's a huge crater in White Sands. Well, this is the crater. And over the next couple episodes, you're going to be hearing the lore of how exactly that happened and what the Forbidden Blight is and who the elf mage is who cast it and all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited about the lore. I've been very energized about doing all the lore. It's been really fun for me. But yeah, but now I'm looking forward to actually completing this, and by the end of this time lapse, it actually is, the whole bottom dome is complete. The upside down dome part of it, I don't know what you call that, but is actually complete. Now, the next step is going to be, I think I'm going to do all the landscaping before we build the palace. I want to build a big palace. This is going to be the elf palace. This is going to be where the elves first came to the end, where they initially lived before they built the big floating city we've been working on. So I want to build the palace. I'm going to build the palace of ancient Talatol, called New Talatol now. And I'm looking forward to it greatly, very much. But I'm going to have to do landscaping first because I don't want it to be flat. In the city of Port Bray, we did a castle. I did a castle. It was my first castle I ever did. Oh, here you can see. Actually, this part's kind of cool. I wish I had shown it from the other side, but where I decided I went out kind of far, and then I built a flat area, and then I came up again, which is going to allow for a really nice little, like, either a little house or a well or a tree or a nature spot. Who knows what it's going to be, but it's going to be a perfect spot to add in some nature. This whole thing is going to be really filled with nature. It'll be really cool. So when I was building the castle in Port Bray, what I did is I built a fake mountain. It's over extreme hills, but there wasn't a flat enough area, like a big enough area for a castle. Now, the builder level that I am now, I would embrace that opportunity to have not a big flat area, but at that point, I wasn't as skilled. I wasn't as experienced in building. So what I did at that point was, instead of just build using the natural landscape or create a really cool landscape, what I did is I made a giant fake mountain and then flattened it off completely at the top. Yeah, so it made it for easier building by far. However, it made it for less interesting building. We're not going to make that mistake here. So I'm not going to make a big flat top. It's going to be a very interesting landscape on top, and it's going to be hollow. I'm not totally insane. It's going to be hollow. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the time lapse. I hope you really enjoyed checking out. Let me know if you like this kind of thing. Hang tight here for the lore. It's coming just in a few seconds. The elves had been betrayed. During the Battle of Talatol, the elves and dwarves were fighting to hold off the forces of the Nether while the human army flanked around the back and attacked. The humans never came. The elf mage king Ataura Averio knew what he had to do. His forces were defeated. The zombie pigmen wouldn't stop at Talatol. There would be no stopping them. He sent word of man's betrayal to the wood elves to the east and began preparations to cast the Forbidden Blight. Forbidden spells were only known to a few, very old Grandmaster mages. They never leave the world once cast. This spell would kill all living things in its blast radius, along with killing the Nether army. It would wipe out the remaining elves and dwarves, along with the oldest living elf, King Averio himself. The spell prepared, the king walked to his window, high in his mage tower, and looked once more at the world he was about to save. He dropped the vial in his cauldron, and the sky went black.